Welcome to Florida in the USA. On a recent trip over here, I thought I wanted to take a look at the Brightline railway network, a brand new network, modern trains, smart, efficient stations, largely funded through the private sector. Let's have a look right now. The sun is setting here in southern Florida and I'm at a brand new station, Aventura station that's been opened just 15 or 16 months from December 2022 as part of the Brightline network here in southern Florida. And I'm going to jump on one of the trains this evening and head from Aventura into central Miami to the Miami Brightline station. Why am I here? Well, it's a great opportunity for me to have a look at the Brightline network. You may have heard a little bit about this. It's a railway network that's been built partly on existing infrastructure, the Florida East Coast Railroad, partly on some new infrastructure out towards Orlando, but the stations are all brand new, including this one right behind me we'll have a look at. The thing that's really interesting about this, particularly in the context of some of the developments in the UK recently, is this is entirely financed really by private sector funding, a little bit of state support and a little bit of state enablement, but generally the funding for this has come from the private sector. Brightline is owned by a private equity business. They've built this business up from essentially nothing. It's not replaced any other trains, it's not competing with other train services, state-owned or any other form of train. It's really here to try and win business back from the airlines on the Miami-Orlando route, and in particular for journeys like the one I'm about to make, really competing with the car, with the automobile. So join me as I have a look at Brightline here in Florida and also talk a little bit more about what Brightline are up to and potentially what this means for us in the UK. Brightline have taken a completely different approach to Amtrak or any of the commuter railroads here. They've obviously thought a lot about their product and thought about the airlines, but quite frankly the airline offer in business class in the US is rarely particularly good. It's often worse than Europe, so they're clearly trying to set themselves apart. And of course, if you're going to drive some of these journeys, you're not going to have the opportunity to get yourself a cup of coffee or a snack without stopping at a service station or a garage. So I think it's a really, really good effort. I don't have any of their commercial information to hand. It's a Friday night here in Florida, and you know, you'd expect Friday evenings to be busy perhaps earlier on, but quite encouraging passenger loadings actually, which I think is really good. Now, what I wanted to do was just to talk a little bit about this investment. Fortress Investments based in New York have provided much of this funding, and it's funding which has enabled them to upgrade the passenger railroad from a company that they have been historically quite closely associated with, which is the Florida East Coast Railroad, which has run, not surprisingly, up the east coast of Florida, but traditionally a freight railroad. It did have passenger trains up until shortly after the end of World War II, but the infrastructure has been upgraded. The distinctive North American train bell you can hear there as the train arrives at Aventura station. The Siemens train sets 4 carriages in each formation with a Siemens charger locomotive at each end of the carriages, providing quite substantial traction power for the train. Diesel, of course, at this stage, maybe in the future it may be electrified. And I'm on board the train having a look through the carriages, having a look at the vestibules, the toilets, the facilities, the seating arrangements, both in the Premier first class and also the standard class accommodation as well.
Me on there a little bit.
Well, welcome
it's
aboard.
Okay.
Brightline chosen to sit in the premium class, which is really very nice. You can see 1+2 seating, leather seats, A few seats around tables, but generally airline-style seating. Some of the passengers have been served snacks and alcohol, but for me on the last bit of the journey, just a bit of water is fine, having been up in the lounge at Aventura station. So Friday night here in Florida, the train's quite popular. I just heard the train crew giving the passenger count back to their control, 109 passengers, which seems fairly respectable actually. So from Brightline here in Florida, a fascinating development of railroad investment here in the US, something that I think we should consider more in the UK. I think private sector businesses would be willing to invest in the UK if they had certainty of outcomes and were willing to do more for their customers. But private sector businesses would be willing to invest, I think, in the UK in this way, but not under the current arrangements. Lots to think about, I think, from this fascinating bit of investment. Lots of talk in the US over the last couple of decades of delivering projects like this. None of them have actually come to fruition until Brightline have delivered the goods, thanks to that investment from Fortress and private equity. Maybe the Las Vegas investment is going to be number 2 for them. Maybe projects like Texas Central from Dallas to Houston will follow, who knows, but certainly something for us in the UK to give some serious thought to and understand. While the world has learned from the UK in the early stages of rail development, what can we now learn from the financial and the political aspects of this project that might help us move investment forward in quite a different way in the United Kingdom? So as I step off the Brightline service at their Miami Central station and have a quick look at the train, I walk down to look at the locomotive, and then I head back out through the station. I hope you found that interesting and useful, and maybe I'll catch you again soon.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and click the notification button so you don't miss any of the great trips Mark has coming your way on this YouTube channel.